Meet Maya, who went from 635 to a 705 GMAT score in only 56 hours of study time. Meanwhile, her friend who needed same score improvement spent over 150 hours. Now, what did Maya know that most GMAT test takers don't? Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on what truly determines your GMAT timeline and why you might be wasting weeks on stuff that doesn't work. Now, there are 4 key things that determine your GMAT timeline, and I'm going to give you a simple way to figure out your study hours. Now, the first thing over here is your starting point, okay? Where you begin makes a huge difference. If you are starting at a 455, you're obviously going to take more time to get to that 700 plus score than someone who's starting at a 605. That is a no-brainer. Now, if you are taking the test for the first time, then definitely take a practice test to figure out where you are at, okay? And do that after you review certain basics. If you are retaking, okay, so this was for the first time test taker. If you are retaking, on the other hand, then utilize your last exam as the baseline for where you are at. However, you will need to be honest about whether you have kept up with what you learned. Okay, that was your factor number 1. Let's look at factor number 2, your study materials. The stuff you study with really makes a difference. Let's look at how. Online courses that track your progress usually need about 8 hours of study time in order to get that 10-point difference, okay, 10-point improvement. Now, if you are preparing with books, the same 10-point improvement will take about 14 hours, okay? So that's for online courses that give you feedback. That's 8 hours to get the 10-point improvement. And these 14 hours are if you're preparing using books, okay? Now, why is that the case? That's the case because these online programs show you exactly where you're messing up so that you don't waste your time studying things that you already know. Now, the third factor, your study time. You need to be super honest about how much quality time you can actually commit. If you are working full-time, you might realistically be able to spend 2 hours on weekdays and 3 to 4 hours on weekends. So if 2 hours on weekdays and 3 to 4 hours on the weekends, okay? And full-time students can actually do 4+ hours daily, okay? That's for full-time students, okay? But here's the kicker. Our data shows that 65%, okay, 65% of GMAT students promise themselves unrealistic study schedules of more than 20 hours weekly, with only 5% who actually hit those targets. Okay, so be very clear about what is it that you can accomplish realistically. Okay, now the last factor over here is your target score. You need to be really smart about your target score. Look up the average GMAT scores at your dream schools and aim for about 20 points higher. Okay, so look at this, aim for about 20 points higher than the average GMAT scores of your target school, or 30+ points if you are from a group that's heavily represented in applications. Remember, one more very important thing. Every extra 10 points that you put in as your target score gets much harder as you go up, especially once you cross that 705 mark. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're setting up your target score. I promised you a simple way to figure out your study hours. Here it is. You start off with your target score and your current score. That's why you need to have good estimates of these. Multiply that by 8 divided by 10. Okay, that's if you're using online courses. If you are using books, then you need to change the factor of 8 to 14. Remember? Right? Okay. And then multiply by 1 plus CBT. What is CBT? CBT is your confidence building time factor, which means that if you are scoring below 40 percentile, then use a factor of 0.25 because you'll take that much longer in order to gain that ability level. Whereas if you are scoring above a 645 total, then you can probably use a CBT of 0. Okay. Let's see how that works with this real life example of Raj. Okay, He's working 60 plus hours per week. He took a diagnostic test, scored a 555. Again, 705 is his target score. Okay, so he basically needs a score improvement of 150 points. And here is the formula. So he needs a total of 150 hours. Okay, now with 12 hours of realistic study time per week, Raj needs about 3 months, and which is where you have to be realistic about how much time you can spend. Now, let's take a look at what Maya does. Okay. Maya, she's a college senior and she has more free time. She's starting off with 635, aiming for a 705 to match her target school's competitive scores. Okay, for her, the formula would look somewhat like this, and you can see that for her CBT is 0. 56 hours would translate into about 2 weeks of intense study with about 30 hours per week. So you can take a look at how each of the factors plays specific role into how much time you are going to take in order to prepare for your GMAT. Okay. GMAT prep timeline is unique to you. It depends on where you're starting, where you want to go, what tools you're using, and how much time you can actually commit. The approach I've shared with you gives you a good estimate, but remember to be honest with yourself about your starting point, realistic about your available time, and consistent with studying. What matters is not following someone else's plan, but understanding what affects your personal journey. If you want to dig deeper and create your own personalized study plan, look at this article now to get more insights, understand all these 4 factors in more depth so that you can make the right decisions for yourself. And if you want to get in touch with us, just write to us at payal@e-gmat.com or follow me on LinkedIn. Happy learning!